case that I sort of see is it's exactly a barcode, but the only difference between, a QR code, but the only difference is there's no verifiable ledger of that QR code moving from one person to the other. I think that's what the NFT sort of provides. But yeah, in essence, you're right. It's essentially what a QR code does. But what it also does is, if that QR code was owned by 10 other people before, you cannot track that. So your QR code is basically a culmination of metadata in an encrypted fashion. But here you have metadata along with ownership. I think that is one sort of added lever that
रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप होते हैं.
But welcome to Babs of Crypto podcast number 13. क्या स्क्रीन वापस आ गई है या मैं फिर से स्टार्ट करूं?
Let me check with production team. Yes, we are back.
Okay, we're good to go. हाँ भाई, आज क्रिप्टो डैडी, मैं नरकुंडी रियलिस्ट और मेरे दूर का दोस्त सदगुरु वापस आ गए. मुंजारो लगा के थोड़ा ओह स्पेशल इफेक्ट्स बस वाह.
I know free version के मजे.
मुंजारो लगा के लेडीज आपको कैसा लग रहा है? ये पतला लग रहा है कि मोटा लग रहा है? प्लीज कमेंट्स में छोड़ दें, बता दें. इफ एनी लेडीज आर लिसनिंग.
बढ़ती जा रही है जैसे उसका वेट कम होते जा रहा है.
Why is realist like disappearing in his screen? वो बैकग्राउंड लगा के
वो मेटावर्स में चला गया. He's an NFT now.
Yeah, again you disappeared. तू अगर एक पोजीशन पे नहीं खड़ा रहेगा तो हाँ यार, ये you're visible now, but like if you come forward you disappear.
Oh damn.
This is symbolic of NFT market also, like.
Yeah, comes and goes.
All right, let me share my screen in the most boomer way possible.
You don't have to add it. दिख रहा है.
Yes, तुमको ऐड करनी पड़ेगी स्क्रीन. I didn't know कि आपको StreamYard पे स्क्रीन ऐड करनी पड़ती है. मैं इतने दिन से शेयर कर रहा था और आ नहीं रही थी. तो I was like यार ये आती क्यों नहीं है? मालूम पड़ा कि नरकुंडी ऐड ही नहीं कर रहा था उसको स्ट्रीम पे.
तो बताएगा तब ना. मुझे सपने में आ गया कि तुझे स्क्रीन शेयर करना है.
भाई अगर मैं स्क्रीन ऐड करूं तो को नोटिफिकेशन आता होगा ना?
नहीं आता.
Anyway,
I think वो बोलता है कि I'm going to share my screen. I mean, what more notification do you need?
बोला है तब दिया है भाई. जब नहीं बोला एकदम ये अपने साइड टैब घूम रहा है. प्रोडक्शन स्क्रिप्ट है ही नहीं रेडी हम लोग के पास.
yes, because अगर स्क्रिप्ट करोगे तो स्क्रिप्टेड लगेगा. We are raw dogging it. Anyways,
रॉ डॉग.
चलो ये so Bitcoin dominance is exactly at 60%. So if you see like ये जो उसका bull market support band है 2023 to like now, it has always stayed above this bull market support band, that which is your 21-week moving average and 50-week moving average. Last cycle में अगर देखना, जब इसके नीचे dip किया था, it went back up again and then it came crashing down. Actually, this is what I am expecting. I don't know तुम्हारे views क्या हैं इस पे. अगर कुछ हैं तो बता दो.
Who's going
Anyone?
first?
You only go first, bro.
On the dominant side, I think मतलब I mean I was expecting a move upwards in terms of flight to safety. I think we are seeing flight to safety to a great extent because people have anyway lost hopes on the broader market. Whatever altcoins moved in the past 1 week, everyone dissed on it because not a single person caught it. Rather, people were sort of shorting every rise that was happening. That goes to show that there is absolutely zero confidence in probably the broader market in terms of rallies, which ideally should correspond to dominance sort of going up by a bit. I'm not too sure whether total 2 virus USDT as opposed to BTC is falling or rising. I haven't seen that chart in a while though. But I would still suggest that that this is where this is what I think, that flight to safety is happening, but it's happening in such low volumes because obviously the larger players are still sort of offloading their BTC and rotating, while the weaker hands are either moving into BTC right now or have just been obliterated. And another reason why things aren't moving as organically as they should is because I think a lot of dead bodies from 1010 are still sort of recovering because a lot of price action in the broader market is not conventional behavior from what we are seeing because a lot of uh, and we've seen that in past cycles as well when these sort of mass or large liquidation events have happened. I'm not too worried about leverage because we've seen similar amounts of leverage in previous cycles. Although last cycle the leverage was actually not backed by any margin, if you remember, likes of 3AC and Celsius, there was nothing backing. Like every form of leverage in this cycle is actually backed by some sort of asset. So I think and hence the whole concept of ADL, right? Earlier there was nothing known as ADL other than positions being cut because there was nothing backing those positions which were being taken. But now what we are seeing is, I think a lot of dead bodies are still sort of floating up to the top post 1010, and we're still in that recovery phase where the market is digesting 1010. It's because a lot of these pseudo hedge funds, which were these decentralized hedge funds, are sort of going kaput because of their positions on 1010. And a lot of these, and some of them have actually risen up to the surface, like a Stream Finance or something. I was hearing a Bankless podcast the other day where they were talking about it, and there are multiple more which have sort of come to me through private channels. Like this person has gone kaput. A lot of these OTC resellers who were playing with leverage have gone kaput. So I think because of which that price action is not that organic, which is why we're not seeing dominance as I'd expected to have one last leg up. But that flight to safety is still happening because we're seeing what's happening in the broader altcoin market. So what we're seeing is probably not translating into the charts in big volume, but it's happening in the background from what I can gather.
Yes. So वो याद है हम बात कर रहे थे कि माइकल बरी ने he started shorting obviously got like put options against all these Palantir and NVIDIA. I think he came up with a new sort of post where he's like, I don't know if you guys saw that, but what he's saying these guys are doing like some sort of accounting fraud, all the Magnificent Seven, and वो क्या करते हैं कि basically जो NVIDIA की जो chips है, they become obsolete in 12 months, right? कि इतना they're improving on it so much कि वो 12 महीने में obsolete हो जाती है, so they have to buy new chips. But ये companies क्या कर रही हैं, they buy these chips और उनका जो depreciation है वो उन्होंने उसको 6 साल का कर दिया है, like and they put it in somewhere in a footnote. तो उसकी वजह से इनकी क्या बोलते हैं earnings have gone up by 176 billion collectively. So he's saying it like that is what these guys have been doing and which nobody has caught on to, and that is why he's saying कि ये फटेगा कभी ना कभी. This is the kind of metric like I mean वो उसके लिए भी लाया था जब उसने big shot किया था. So I know a lot of people like are now then like really watching this out.
I
Anyway.
saw another post regarding this, where they were saying, OpenAI basically invested in NVIDIA, right? And they basically, or if they gave them like I think 10 million or $10 billion, ऐसा कुछ वो था. And in return, no, NVIDIA basically invested in OpenAI worth of 10 billion. And what OpenAI did was bought 10 billion worth of NVIDIA chips. So basically, it was an indirect buy of their own chips, inflating the market, the price of the chips, and so. And what they're putting those numbers are as basically revenue into their yearly models. And this is the same thing that was happening. And they were basically comparing it to the dot-com bubble that was happening in the last bubble that happened. That companies are basically investing in each other and then sort of buying stocks and or buying those products and then pushing the prices up. Eventually, it wasn't really actual retail buy or actual buy that the companies were actually doing. It was just inflated numbers, nothing else. And that is what Michael Burry is also saying at this point in time.
Fine, even if they're doing this creative accounting, but उसके बीच में earnings कितनी बढ़ रही है from AI application? If they're able to catch up on that, then market might be more forgiving.
I mean, AI application numbers that are going up is mad. I mean, the kind of growth that people. I mean, so this is probably. I mean, yeah, there is something has risen so much. Now there are two schools of thought, right? Either you participate or you diss the rise. Now, even on the long side, you'll have armchair longs and you'll have participating longs, right? Armchair longs will say that, yeah, this is very bullish, but they're too sort of scared to long, I mean, a rising candle. So, and even on the short side, there are armchair shorts and there are participating shorts. There are shorts which is, I mean, like a Michael Burry has open shorts, but I mean, the market can say stay exuberant longer than you can say solvent, longer than you can stay solvent on either side. And then there are armchair shorts who are like, yeah, I mean, things are, and I think in the US market, there are more armchair shorts right now than participating shorts because everyone's like, yeah, this is risen. Not many people because while this sort of AI bull lasted, a lot of people sort of got off the bus at different levels, right? Because at every stage, people thought that the markets were overheated and the markets were overvalued. But the markets went maybe 20-30% over that price point where they exited. So everyone's sort of justifying their exits, saying that where I exited, that was the top, and now everything is very exuberant. So they are sort of not participating in the short side, but they've now become doomsday narrative peddlers, right? So it's very interesting, but like I said, I mean, shorts are usually formed when everything is super exuberant. What previous cycles have taught us is everyone is so skeptical of every rise that with every rise you have a bunch of shorts getting built up, which is why the markets are going up and up. Because if there is a complete long build up, that would completely signal the top, but that's not happening because you're finding shorters at every rise. So and the music will go on till that happens. What's this? What's JV Diamond saying now about base?
Okay. No, so
He's back to bullish.
they've rolled out a deposit token called JPM Coin on Base Network for like USD transfers. I don't know तुम लोग ने ये सुना कि नहीं, ये news देखी कि नहीं, but they've
JPM
rolled
token for USD, is that a stable coin?
JPM Coin, yeah, on Base
Okay.
Network
What does that do?
for,
What does JPM do?
I don't know, like basically they will facilitate USD transfers using JPM Coin. I don't know how
Why
they're going
would
to
they do
do
it
that.
using JPM? That's just weird. That's like the Ripple story. Why
Yeah,
would you have a stable coin?
so you can earn points on it. They make you earn points on it.
Yeah, exactly. Airdrop. Use that
आ रहा है.
token.
I think it's a stable coin, like
Yeah,
USDT,
that makes
USDC.
sense.
Yeah,
Thank God, that makes sense. Otherwise, it will be
yeah.
like a Ripple story, right? Here's a token which moves 10x up and down. Why don't you use it for money transfers?
Yeah, so I think it's a stable.
Mainly ये issue है ना. The thing is also what happened. So what our JPM coin is doing is they are trying to copy the XRP model without the token model, right? So XRP का ये लफड़ा है where if you look at XRP, the actual token is not used for transactions, only the technology. So ये लोग जो काम कर रहे हैं with the banks and all this stuff, your actual use case is not on the token which they have. And JPM is
So
trying to
basically it's a blockchain, right?
Yeah. So JPM mainly is trying to do the similar thing that mainly is you transact on JPM as a stable coin for JPM transactions to start with, and then later on they will mimic what XRP is doing, but with like a stable coin.
If they do what XRP is doing, that means nobody's going to use them. So I think they should do what Ethereum is doing.
They should, I guess, or maybe you can just earn points. That's the best part.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger meta here. Yeah, you transact on my chain and you get points.
And then you probably also get like a multiplier. So you do like 3 transactions, you get a multiplier on that. More points.
The 4th transaction is on me. You send somebody $100 3 times, 4th time I would have sent him
और airdrop भी देंगे वो.
Yes, साथ में airdrop भी मिलेगा. For which you have to whitelist.
ठीक है, ये Capo is back. And Capo ने अपने प्राइवेट टीजी ग्रुप में डाला कि ETH का चार्ट बना के it's going to 1K. Yeah,
sorry, 1K. My bad.
The arrow says it clearly, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
and he's also made a nice arc, which
yeah
coincidentally joins all the points.
Yes.
Capo are his scribbles, dude. Yeah. This is why I love TA. Like how Sadhguru used to say it. Yeah, a couple of squigglies up or down.
चार्ट के बाहर जा रहा है.
Probability. बताओ किस direction में भेजना है चार्ट को. I'll send it.
अच्छा, तुमने वो देखा this guy क्या बोलते हैं अपने Donald Trump is sort of bringing 50-year mortgages I don't know if you guys saw this news कि they're going to introduce 50-year mortgages. तो लोग बोल रहे थे कि मैं इतने साल जीऊंगा ही नहीं, तो अब उसका भी तोड़ आ गया. China is developing a drug to extend human life to 150 years. So
yeah, pay your
जिंदगी भर
mortgage
mortgage
before you
भरते
die,
रहो.
bitch.
it's like the
I won't let you die
opportunity.
till you paid every cent of the mortgage. जिंदा रखेंगे लोगों को. Ventilator पे भी bank account activated.
EMI भरते रहो.
Yeah, I mean, 50-year mortgage is just like renting a place from the bank for your life.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what everyone's good, because there is actually a lot of I think housing market. I mean, sort of real estate on the balance sheets of maybe like developers right now, which they have to sort of offload, and maybe like a 50. I don't know how they're going to price a 50-year mortgage. I mean, is it going to be a floating rate? Fixed rate is going to be too much. I think people will. I don't know what people.
अरे no bro, so mortgages में क्या होने वाला? Simple है. They'll make a killing because mortgage is the way that they structure the, what do you call this thing? Your interest is on a reducing balance basis, right? So let's say even if you have like a 4.5% inflation rate, they will take their entire interest, almost like close to 60% of it, in the first 5 to 7 years. So when you actually try to
understood. Rest is just the asset value basically.
हाँ, तो मतलब best क्या है कि तो when you have a 25-year mortgage, in the first 5 years, right, you are like already screwed. But now 50 years, you'll be screwed for first 10 years.
But
and then after 10 years, the value still the same of the outstanding, more or less. So for them, it's like killing.
Yeah. Very clear. Yeah.
But to be honest, US may and even Canada, the problem with mortgages is ये 50-year mortgages. People are making a lot of noise, but people are already doing that. वो remortgage करते रहते हैं अपने घरों को सारी.
Yeah, they refinance it. Correct.
You know, they keep refinancing it. It's nothing different. I mean, just putting there, literally just structuring it out. It's not. I mean, there are people who bought a mortgage house in the 1980s and they're still more paying mortgage over it, and that's how their lifestyle is. They don't think about owning that house 100% or at the any point in time. उनको ये सारी उम्र हम पे करते रहेंगे, मॉर्गेज भी पे करेंगे, गाड़ी का भी लीज पे करेंगे, and that's how they live.
How Narkudi said, right? It's basically just leasing it from the bank. So I might as well do that. If I'm able to clear it, I'll get to own it. If not, who cares? I'll die. The bank is going to just take the asset off. And now Sadhguru is saying in the first 10 years they'll anyway recover they'll anyway sort of suck out all the interest. Whatever's left is basically the actual asset value. So even if the person does not pay it, I can just sell off the house and just recover my cash from a bank's perspective, because the profit has already been extracted in the first 10 years.
Like there's no risk in it.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe hopefully this will invigorate the economy.
Yeah, एक और चीज थी on the home ownership. So I think 60s में the average price of home, it used to be 3 times the average annual income in US. Now it's gone to like 14, 15 times. So like, how do you catch up with this? The only way is like longer mortgage, like, you know, monthly
लंबी उधारी.
लंबी उधारी, like चल रहा है, credit card loan चल रहे हैं, education loan चल रहा है, mortgage चल रहा है, which you can include in your will. So.
And last piece of news, अपने उस दिन SoftBank they offloaded NVIDIA के stocks like complete. आज उनका stock गिर गया 10%. तो लोगों ने भी उनको offload कर दिया basically.
SoftBank actually.
पैसे बनाए तो भी मुश्किल.
Or Masayoshi Son was one of the early investors in NVIDIA, but he sold too early or some shit like that. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe they get this bet wrong as well. You never know.
Yes.
चलो और भाग जाए NVIDIA.
आज एक हम काफी आउटडेटेड टॉपिक के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, बट आई स्टिल थिंक इट हैज अ लॉट ऑफ एप्लीकेशंस इफ यू नो दे गेट इट. सो विल टॉक अबाउट NFTs. विल स्टार्ट विद यू रियलिस्ट. जस्ट लाइक बहुत ही सिंपल टर्म्स में व्हाट आर NFTs एंड इनके जो होते हैं अलग टोकन स्टैंडर्ड्स होते हैं, तो थोड़ा उसके बारे में बात करना.
Yeah, so in simple terms, NFT is also a token. So for example, you have ETH, which is a token, right? NFT is also a token, but as the name suggests, NFT is a non-fungible token, which basically means जो तुम्हारे पास token है, that's a unique token. Nobody else has that. So for example, ETH, right? You could have an ETH token. I could have an ETH token. There is zero difference between the token inside your wallet and inside my wallet, right? But in case of an NFT, if you have an NFT and I have an NFT, what your token is completely different from mine, right? It's a completely unique token. NFTs in general were created so as to represent unique ownership, right? On the blockchain, they were first created obviously in Solidity on ETH. the first token standard for NFTs, which was ERC 721, and the most widely, and that's the most widely used. Then another token standard for NFTs came out, which was ERC 1155. Slight difference between the two. So in ERC 721, like I mentioned, one token is completely unique from the other one, and an NFT, which is effectively a token, right? There's zero difference between an NFT and another token. It's just the properties. You can store a lot more metadata into an NFT token, right? Because let's say you're using a token to represent art. Now, one piece of art is completely different from another piece of art. So you can actually store in that token a lot of metadata about that art, right? The skin type of that art. So if there's probably a figure inside that artwork, the hat that the figure is wearing, the shades that the figure is wearing, the skin tone of that particular figure, the sweatshirt that the figure is wearing, all of this metadata can actually be stored on the NFT contract. NFTs are of course transferable as well. So unlike every other token, so the basic properties remain the same, but the only difference is one token is completely unique from the other. Now then, so NFT, so you started having the use case of ERC 721 tokens, which is NFTs, initially with, I think that collection, which was CryptoPunks, right, which is one of the most popular ones on ETH that had come out. Then you also had use cases in Decentraland, I don't know if anyone remembers, which was basically buying land in a metaverse. Now, again, one piece of land is going to be completely unique from another piece of land. So again, the use case of NFTs, right? Axie Infinity also used the 721 standard. When Axie Infinity sort of came in, and then they thought, okay, very interesting. In games also you can use NFTs, but a unique part that was the use case for the gaming industry, right, was that you have, let's say, one asset inside a game, which could be a gun, right, and similarly you could have a shield. Now, a gun is completely unique, but and a shield is completely unique. So it makes sense to have two individual NFTs to signify a gun and a shield. But in a game, you could have multiple guns and you could have multiple shields of the same kind, right? So you could, one person could actually end up owning 3 shields, but a shield nonetheless. And a person could end up using 3 guns, but 3 guns nonetheless. Guns are unique, shields are unique, but within each, there are multiple. So then came the ERC 1155 standard, which said that NFTs are non-fungible, but within a particular NFT type, you could have fungibility, right? So this was basically a broader extension of the 721 standard. And that's what it came about. And the wider use cases and applications which can be used in case of NFTs are, so for example, and I think somebody in one of these blockchain, I think it was Avalanche or somebody did a pilot case with some municipal corporation in India as well, as far as I remember. They were sort of tokenizing, creating NFTs for different land deeds. So if there is a land deed for a property, which is a property deed between person A and person B, it is one piece of land, unique, right? Unique piece of land. Ideal use case to tokenize it with an NFT. So they were sort of tokenizing these property deeds, and within that NFT, all the metadata was stored. The two parties involved, obviously signified by maybe like contract addresses, the size of the land, the date the land was sold off, the price at which the land was sold off, everything was sort of stored in the metadata for the NFT. So this is what the world of NFTs is in a nutshell.
करेक्ट नरकुंडी तूने थोड़ी एनालिसिस निकाली थी पिछले इतने दिनों की कि कौन कौन से एनएफटी चले और कितने बिलियंस आए और कितने बिलियन चले अभी कोई चल रहे हैं क्या और उन पे कितनी वॉल्यूम आ रही है
Okay, so pehle, let's go into a quick background of how much volume these NFTs have generated. So peak for NFTs was in 2021. So 2020 mein, when bull market started picking up, NFT trade volume was 230 mil. 2021 mein it peaked at 22 bill. Or 2021 mein it was 22 bill. Or 2022 mein it stabilized at 24 bill, and then it's just started going down from there. Now, obviously, us time pe Ethereum was like 90% of total transactions that were happening. So all of the volume was going towards them. And main thing here ki I think this was purely speculation play, because jo utility ke examples diye hain, those are very, very
बात कर रहा है?
niche
Only speculation. Are you serious?
जाएगा ऊपर जाएगा Like I think for
Look at my pixelated artwork. It looks beautiful.
Bored Apes, I think peak was somebody paid 800 ETH for it, which was like about 3.5 mil. Currently, the floor price for Bored Apes is sitting at 6.5 ETH. So it's a fraction of what the market was. I think
Current
total
total
volume
कितनी volume आ रही है उस पे? NFTs
3.8 million on daily volume. So in the video description, we'll link one of the Dune dashboards from Telegram Foundation. It compiles all the daily volumes from everyone, but it's just a fraction of what it has been. And again, ETH is the major one right now. Like half of the trade volume is coming from ETH. Then you have a little bit between Base, Solana, and Telegram. So another 25% split between them. Everybody else is dead. I know, Sadhguru, he likes Sonic and some of the NFT collections they had with there. So maybe he'll chip in on what he bought and how much he sold it for. But it's not looking good. And the whole utility factor that they had was for Bored Apes, you get real life meetups and Eminem concert hora and all that was obviously at the peak. Right now, I don't think there's a scalable use case for NFTs unless somebody comes
Mark
up.
Cuban अपने वो जो उसकी sports company नहीं है, basically owns like a sports team, right?
Dallas
Dallas
Cowboys?
Mavericks.
Yeah.
Dallas
So
Mavericks.
he was using NFTs उसके ticketing के लिए. So I don't know if
That's
he's
a good
still
use
doing
case.
that.
That's a
Yeah.
good use case.
Yeah.
But,
See, I think
but
like जब ये use case
the thing is that use case का फायदा नहीं है ना, because using NFT or using QR code, it does the same thing at the end, right? So it's not like it's
Correct.
special. It's not
The
anything special
NFT is
about
a
it. It's
QR
cool
code
है.
on the blockchain. That's it.
हाँ,
It's just
तो
on the
वही है.
blockchain.
तो मतलब the use case was pretty much कि यार प्राइस ऊपर जा रहा है, ले लो, और ऊपर जाए कोई और ले लेगा मेरे से.
Yeah, I think that's the use case for the entire crypto.
That
you want
is
to
the
talk
use
about your
case for
Sonic
everything.
NFTs,
Yeah,
derps and goggles. How many X did you make on them?
So I'll tell you what, how I see NFTs right now, okay, or is that the only place if you're looking to make money on NFTs, you can still make, is what you notice over the last couple of years is any new L1 which releases, अच्छा, उसके जो पहले जो NFT collections होते हैं, अच्छा, you just pick up one of them, and what happens is that the L1 at some point pumps. And when it pumps, right, उसका जो main NFT collection है, it goes up in value because everyone just goes and buys that shit. Okay, it's just because normally क्या है कि जो top के influencers होते हैं या people who are promoting the chain are using that collection. Like I was tracking Sonic for some time. I bought a derp, which was जो उन लोग का mainly main था. Derp और goggles दो थे उन लोग के, but derp was like turned still popular. So I got like there's no bull or bear market. मैंने कब लिया था, Sonic pump हुआ, the NFT went up like 5x in like less than 3, I think in a month's time. Similarly, also there was hyperliquid पे NFTs है. वहाँ पे भी जो उसका main collection था, उसका अभी तक value है. It's still holding value. So what I saw is that if you look at the Monad, जो अभी आ रहा है, अच्छा, you pick up one of the NFT collections, जो भी उन लोग का जो main collection है, which has been launched initially first, and just hold it. And once that price of the token goes up, इसका value बढ़ जाता है for no reason whatsoever. So if you want to still be early in the NFT game or play it right, the best way to play it is probably look at upcoming L1s. उसका जो पहला NFT collection है, जो भी value है, because normally they're damn cheap. अच्छा, you just pick one of them up and hold them for like maybe until the L1 pumps or does some marketing around it, and you sell it off. But the use case which is actually built on NFTs right now does not really have any value, is because there is a solution for it in the real world, more or less. So
QR codes like you mentioned.
and QR codes are like highly encrypted. They're like highly what you call secure. तो ऐसा कोई लफड़ा नहीं है उसमें. Like unlike how you got on-chain money, which has a use case because when you're buying and selling on-chain, you're transferring funds across geographies. So you have what you call a benefit of, let's say, fees, right? कि 1 cent, 2 cent to transfer money across country to country. तो यहाँ से send money out to UK from, let's say, Dubai or anywhere else, you pay like £50. So there's the use case of token yet, which is there as value of money, but NFT का कोई value ही नहीं है. It's just purely कि भाई लेके बेचो, अच्छा, and there is like a replication in the real world too. There is no real use case in the long run. Isliye I think it's dead forever. But if you play in the space, just buy the first NFT collection of any new album coming out, and then hope for the best.
Yeah, that's
This is not financial advice.
One use case that I sort of see is it's exactly a barcode, but the only difference between, oh, sorry, a QR code, but the only difference is there's no verifiable ledger of that QR code moving from one person to the other. I think that's what the NFT sort of provides. But yeah, in essence, you're right. It's essentially what a QR code does. But what it also does is if that QR code was owned by 10 other people before, you cannot track that. So a QR code is basically a culmination of metadata into a particular, in an encrypted fashion. But here you have metadata along with ownership. I think that is one sort of added lever that NFTs have.
Yeah, because
But you see,
content creators, artists, unko mil sakta hai additional royalty on each transaction that comes.
Yeah, but definitely not like I think one thing is definitely there. Like if you want to flip a quick buck, I think what Sadhguru said is the way to go. Like any the first few corrections on any L1 that will definitely have the most amount of hype behind it. Pretty much like new memes also in any sort of new L1 which end up launching, they're the only ones which sort of make it to that cult-like status. But yeah, the underlying technology is definitely not worth maybe like 800 ETH worth, right? How Narkudi mentioned, but there the person wasn't really paying 800 ETH for the NFT. The NFT is nothing but it just signifies the transfer and ownership. He was paying 800 ETH for that artwork. Now, for that person, that artwork
Not
is
just
nothing
not
but
just artwork. No, no,
for example, somebody who owns a Picasso, somebody can look at a Picasso and say that, you know what, why is this worth
no.
maybe $10 million? This is
One
dog
thing.
shit.
Quick on the person who paid 800 each for, let's say, a board. It was not even paying for the artwork. What he was paying was for
Was
an
the
exclusive
speculation?
club membership.
Oh, and that
Club
also.
membership.
So even like
That
owning a
was the
Picasso gets you into an exclusive club. Like how many
exactly.
people own a Picasso? Like how many people can say that they own a Picasso? Right? It's a very exclusive club. So eventually, you are absolutely right. For that person was paying for was bragging rights, was status, right? Entry into that unique or exclusive list of people, and maybe and speculation as well. Like I know a lot of people who make money just by flipping art. Maybe they don't care whether they're owning like a Monet or a Picasso or whatever, right? They're just buying it because they know it's going to hold value and they just sell it off to somebody else. Like the person who probably has that Board Ape, that basic NFT for maybe like 800 ETH. I think he's not going to sell it anyway below the price he's bought it, right? So for him, that value is still there. It's like owning land. Maybe land next to you is trading at 50% here, but you will only sell it at that price that you bought it. So it's like psychological thing, maybe.
डैडी मुझे जो तुझसे पूछना था उसका जवाब तो गुरुजी ने ऑलरेडी दे ही दिया and that question has become redundant because this like कि अब कहीं नहीं जाने वाला कोई application नहीं होने
I
वाला
have a
और
different
अगर तू
thing.
कोई
I have a different view to it.
बता दे भाई
So again, Guruji जो है ना वो बात कर रहा था from just a trading standpoint, right? And I think and the reason why I say that is because you guys know that I've been trading NFTs since the very beginning of the last year cycle, right? Yeah. So I traded on NFTs. I bought them like pre-mint, and I've made really good bucks on NFTs in the last cycle. And what happened with NFTs was they got criminalized basically, right? And when I say that, I mean to say it in the way like how meme coins did to utility tokens, right? That's what happened to NFTs. So NFTs did have a very solid use case. It's not just a barcode. I mean, if you remember, there was a protocol or a project called Terra Virtual Collect that then turned into something else later on, right? Their the initial platform that they created, Terra Virtual Collect, right? What was that? It wasn't just artwork. What they were doing was very specific, very catered to a very specific niche. They were catering to the people who are into pop culture. So you want your comic books or your movie characters and stuff, right? And what they were doing was this artwork that they were selling on their platforms, the TVK platform, right? And those art pieces were going off. I think I have one of those Maverick helmets still of the Terra Virtual Collect NFTs. And to be honest, it's a cool thing to have. Like, it has like AR capability. So if I use my phone, I can show the helmet lying on my table. It's a cool thing. And the idea, and when you're looking for people like who are looking into art culture collection, right? So you have like Funko Pops. They are nothing but these small toys, right? but people have rooms filled with Funko Pops, right?
Yeah.
And you have to understand that that was one part of the NFTs initiation, right? And then you have, of course, like you had thousands of meme coins. There were thousands of art guys who came in, created graphic images, and called them NFTs and started selling them, right? And the only difference between a one NFT or the other was just the color of the hat on the two images or the color of the shirt on the two images. But that's not really the play on NFTs. NFTs, I remember back in the day when we were discussing NFTs in 2020, right? We were discussing like, okay, NFTs, what could NFTs do? NFTs could actually differentiate so that there is a whole watch community, right? That end up paying 250, $300,000 for a watch. How do you differentiate? And now you have watches that are made in China or any other countries, and these are like one of one replicas, right? So they are like super clone copies. You can't figure those watches as fake unless you don't open the watch and break it apart. How do you
Right.
differentiate a actual watch from a fake watch? And that's
And
where
the
NFT comes in.
serial number, bro.
Serial numbers can be
You can
then
copy the
fake.
serial number.
That's not the thing.
You're on mute.
And the only other thing was paperwork. Paperwork. Now, if you buy a counterfeit watch, right? It actually comes with paperwork and a box. I mean, they've gone
Yeah.
to almost of that length. Then how do you differentiate? So that is where NFTs used to come into play, where you could actually have those the actual pieces that are coming off from these high-end watches are coming up with an NFT. So when you're selling your watch to a person, you're actually transferring the 720 the NFT as well, and that basically solidified the transfer of watch from one person to another, and it was on ledger on chain. Right, that is where the use case of NFT actually came into play.
Yeah.
And just like you said, Ritwik, on art pieces, right? So when you're owning a Monet, for example, yes, there are
Yeah.
hundreds of copies of Monet as well, but the original one can have the NFT assigned to it. I mean, you're transferring that you
Exactly.
have a
Only one.
open ledger.
Correct.
Exactly. And the part is, so you also have, and then it also comes into regulation because a lot of people move art pieces to cut down taxes, right? They
Correct.
move they and that's where you have a ledger in place to actually sort of resolve that sort of issues where you have a history of the art piece up to how much was it sold earlier, how much is it getting sold now.
Correct.
So you cut down all
Correct.
those things, right? So you had a very solid use case, and I think even today, uh, maybe there are not a lot of people looking into it, but I think it does have a very solid play. There were rumors of GTA 6, for example, that they're going to be employing cryptocurrency into their games, right?
Correct.
Can you imagine? I don't know how far that's going to be true, but can you imagine a game like GTA 6 by Rockstar introducing, let's say, an NFT card? You have no
Yeah.
idea the implications that will bring to the market and into the gaming industry, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
and this is one part. And then you have fractionalized NFTs, where you have NFTs where I remember there was a protocol, it didn't do very well because it was way ahead of its time, I would say. They were doing real world assets. What they were doing was they were basically buying out buildings in Hong Kong or Thailand, and they were selling parts of those flats as fractionalized assets. So you could basically own a part of the apartment and get rental yields on the actual rent that was coming on those apartments. Right. So you
Yes.
were basically
Correct.
there were actual NFT use cases. It's just that we never got to see them get the fruits out. So, and I think also because again, like I said, meme coins destroyed utility, and that's what the most NFT JPEGs did to the actual utilities behind NFTs. So, in
On this,
time, yes, maybe
yeah.
we might see, and now that we are going towards like in 2020 real world assets were also not something that people were looking into. I remember we tried selling insurance on crypto, right? Nobody wanted to do that, and people were like, this is stupid, and it did work. But it all comes down to, in time things do happen, and I think NFTs will come at a time when they will be required. So I don't think it's a dead space.
It might work
Yeah, I
now.
completely
Correct.
agree, right? Yeah, so I completely agree. So here we're talking about the speculative nature of a particular thing and linking it with the underlying technology. So, like we've discussed, blockchain works, NFTs work. Now, a person who ended up paying 800 ETH for something which is today worth what Narkandi mentioned, maybe like how much was it?
6
10
ETH.
ETH or 6 ETH.
Let's see.
From 800 ETH to 6 ETH, that does not undermine what the technology does. That is speculation.
Exactly.
That speculation exists
Exactly.
anywhere. Like technically, a
And
person
that's
can
like
buy a piece of
exactly
real
that.
estate. A person can buy a piece of real estate. Let's say a real estate piece of land gives 10% yield on a yearly basis, and that person is effectively paying 50 times earnings for that particular piece of land. He is overpaying for that piece of land. Does not mean real estate as an asset class sucks, right? So here in
Exactly.
this case,
Exactly.
that person
Exactly.
bought it for 800 ETH because he felt that it was worth
I,
800 ETH. Like we mentioned, for a person for whom these things matter, right? For
This is
him,
actually
maybe
NFT.
800 ETH was a steal. Maybe
I
800 ETH
mean,
was a steal. So the
you're right,
underlying
Ritvik.
technology is definitely worthy. It's just that the speculative aspect of it cannot be sort of taken away. People will speculate. You give them something to speculate, people will speculate on anything.
It is a multi-generation asset. Narkuti, I just shared something. I think this is the data that we have to share over here for all NFT connoisseurs.
So आज 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 गुरुजी के
What is
अंदर
your
का
father? This is
पैशन
what he does.
You did some
आज
quick
गुरु
search.
आज गुरुजी ने टोनी के अंदर का पैशन जगा दिया. He has this negative effect on people. किसी
What is daddy doing?
Yeah, bro. I remember advising on an NFT project at one time. It was a game project, and I remember Sadhu. So yeah, I remember that. Mute.
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember advising on NFT projects back in like I think 2021. They were games uh, and then there was a discussion at that point in time. Where we were having what is the utility and how. And this is exactly what I was telling them that if you push price speculation in the marketing for your game, then your game's going to go absolutely down because you have to think long term. I mean, eventually you want to people to use. I mean, I'm a big gamer, so I know that when I'm grinding on Call of Duty or I'm grinding on Battlefield 6, I'm grinding for camos, I'm grinding for guns, and I'm grinding for all of that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what people, that's where NFT in gaming came to. And you grind for something, you work hard, and then once that thing has leveled up, you sort of sell that at a higher value, and that's the idea behind gaming and NFTs. So
just
let's
like
see.
this podcast, we will grind and sell it higher. But you have to be present to grind. Not this is not directed towards most of the people here. Just one person. Okay, good time to
Yeah.
end.
Well, एक
ठीक है
चीज
भाई. Yeah.
we missed out on talking about Pudgy Penguins. I mean, they've been around for long, and I was checking.
Yeah, I think they launched in
They are now available in
2022, I
Walmart
think.
also. So
And
Yeah.
they've
still
done
hold value.
15 million. They've done
Oh
15
yeah,
million in
they've been
actual
going up in
sales.
value constantly.
Wow.
Walmart, Target, and GameStop, and they're also installing digital arcade machines in Chuck E. Cheese, Dave and Buster's. So that's a bit of a breakout story in terms of like how do you move from pure NFT speculation to actual space, creating software out of it, having digital collections, and then merging it. So hats off to them.
Yeah.
Wow. ठीक है. Good time to end. Like, share, comment, subscribe. नरकुंडी को गाली, bell icon, and एक last meme जो गुरुजी ने भेजा है for Tony, for Tony to get riled up before this podcast ends.
Yeah. Let's discourage people from listening to our advice with this meme.
Yes. All right.
Saudhan.
Adios, guys.
All right, guys. See you.
Okay, bye.